When you think of the world's richest people, names like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk probably come to mind, but their fortunes pale in comparison to an African emperor named Mansa Musa, whose wealth was truly beyond imagination. Before he became known as Africa's Golden King, Mansa Musa built his empire through brutal conquest and slavery. Yet, a single tragic event allegedly transformed him from a ruthless tyrant into a celebrated and generous leader. This is the incredible story of Mansa Musa. Our journey begins in 1280, with Mansa's birth into the royal family of the Mali Empire. He was destined for greatness, but his path to the throne was not immediate. For years, he lived in the shadow of his older brother, Mansa Abu Bakr. This all changed in 1312 when Abu Bakr, an aspiring explorer, abdicated the throne. He organized a massive expedition of 2,000 ships to explore the Atlantic Ocean and was never seen again. With his brother's mysterious disappearance, the leadership of the vast Mali Empire fell to Mansa Musa. He quickly seized this opportunity to forge his own legacy, one built on ambition and unimaginable riches. Mansa Musa immediately began aggressive military campaigns to expand his territory. He conquered 24 cities, including the legendary trade hub of Timbuktu. This strategic move solidified Mali's dominance in the region. In just a few short years, his empire stretched over 2,000 miles from the Atlantic coast to modern-day Niger. The Mali Empire became one of the largest in the world at that time. It was so vast that it was said a journey from one end to the other would take an entire year. The famous 14th century traveler Ibn Battuta even confirmed the empire's immense scale. He noted that it took him 4 months just to travel from the northern borders to the southern capital. While other leaders ruled over large territories, Mansa Musa was different. What truly set him apart was his almost indescribable wealth, far beyond what any other ruler could imagine. To understand how he accumulated such riches, we need to look at the unique system that gave him control over resources and people. Unlike the feudal systems in Europe, where wealth was tied to land, African elites built their power by controlling kinship groups. A kinship group was a network of related individuals whose labor and resources belonged to their leader. This system gave the leader immense power with very little oversight. Any value a kinship group produced went directly to its leader. It was also common for captives from wars to be enslaved. These individuals became tools of power for rulers like Mansa Musa. He used enslaved people for labor, to expand his kinship networks, and to trade for even more economic gain. Through his extensive wars of expansion, Mansa Musa amassed a huge workforce. This constant supply of free labor fueled the economic engine of his empire. He not only owned vast lands rich in resources, but also commanded a workforce that he didn't have to pay. To top it off, the Mali Empire was incredibly rich in gold. Mansa Musa controlled its production and distribution, using his enslaved workforce to mine the precious metal. During this period, West Africa was responsible for almost 2/3 of the world's gold supply. It's likely that gold from the Mali Empire can still be found in jewelry and electronics today. But gold wasn't the only source of his wealth. The empire also dominated the salt trade. A commodity as valuable as gold back then, salt was essential for preserving food and for hydration, especially in the hot climates of Africa and the Middle East. Obtaining salt was dangerous and labor-intensive work. Mansa Musa used his vast enslaved workforce for this grueling task, allowing his empire to produce massive quantities with ease. This forced labor was a cornerstone of Mali's economy. It allowed Mansa to expand his wealth and influence across the entire region. The city of Timbuktu was perfectly located between the gold fields and salt mines. This made it a major trading hub that brought even more wealth into Mansa Musa's empire. Elephant ivory was another lucrative trade, good for the Mali Empire. Much like gold, ivory was highly sought after for its rarity and beauty. It was in particularly high demand in Europe, where it was used to create sacred objects for Christian worship. The large tusks of African elephants were the most prized, providing another profitable trade route for Mansa Musa. Through years of conquest and trade, Mansa Musa had become incredibly powerful and felt untouchable. He ruled with an iron fist, but a personal tragedy was about to change him forever. It is said that Mansa Musa accidentally killed his own mother, a mistake that filled him with deep remorse. In his anguish, he sought guidance from religious scholars, asking how he could possibly earn forgiveness from God. They advised him to undertake a pilgrimage to Mecca to seek penance for his actions. It's important to note that the story of him killing his mother is contested by historians. Either way, his pilgrimage to Mecca did happen, and it was a defining moment in his life. The journey would serve as a spiritual awakening for Mansa Musa. It reshaped his entire reign from that point forward. In 1324, the 44-year-old emperor embarked on his legendary pilgrimage to Mecca. This journey would not only demonstrate his piety, but also reveal the staggering wealth of the Mali Empire to the world. His procession was a spectacle of opulence that left a lasting impression everywhere it went. Starting from his capital, Nani, his journey took him through modern-day Mauritania and Algeria before he reached Cairo. Along the way, his caravan would build a new mosque every Friday. Accompanying him was a massive caravan of 60,000 people. This included a personal retinue of 12,000 enslaved people dressed in the finest silks. The emperor himself rode on horseback, preceded by 500 enslaved individuals, each carrying a staff adorned with gold. To transport his riches, he had a baggage train of 80 camels, each loaded with 300 pounds of pure gold. As Mansa Musa's entourage passed through the streets of Cairo, people were stunned by the spectacle. Even the Egyptian official greeting the caravan was reported to have said it competed in glory with the sun itself. In Cairo, Mansa Musa spent gold so lavishly that he flooded the market. This caused the value of the local currency to plummet, and the economy didn't fully recover for over 12 years. However, not all this wealth was for charity. According to one historian, Mansa Musa brought 14,000 slave girls for his personal service on the pilgrimage. After a 3-month stay in Cairo, the caravan set out for the final leg of the journey to Mecca. The path ahead was a grueling 1,000-mile stretch of harsh desert. Even for a man with all the gold in the world, the journey was incredibly difficult. As they crossed the desert, they finally reached the Gulf of Aqaba. This was a melting pot of cultures, where roots from Africa, Europe, and Asia all converged. For Mansa Musa, this was a profound moment, witnessing the diversity of the Islamic world firsthand. Arriving in Medina, he visited the Prophet Muhammad's mosque and tomb to pray for forgiveness. While there, he met with scholars from across the Islamic world. He was so impressed by their knowledge that he invited many to return with him to Mali. His caravan then followed the same route the Prophet Muhammad had once taken to Mecca. Upon reaching the holy city, Mansa Musa completed the rituals of the pilgrimage. He demonstrated his generosity by purchasing houses for future pilgrims from Mali and distributing 20,000 gold coins to the poor. A year after his journey began, Mansa Musa returned home in 1325. Historical accounts claim the journey had transformed him, making him more humble and deepening his faith. Following his pilgrimage, Mansa Musa was no longer just a wealthy ruler. He was now a man intent on improving his empire and leaving a legacy beyond riches. He invested heavily in education and infrastructure, aiming to give back to his subjects. Mansa Musa transformed his empire into a sophisticated center of learning. He revitalized cities like Gao and Timbuktu, building mosques and universities. Timbuktu became a renowned Islamic university center, attracting scholars from across the globe. At its peak, the city housed 25,000 students, and its libraries held over 800,000 manuscripts. To achieve this vision, he brought architects and scholars from distant lands. One notable figure was Abu Ishaq al-Sahili, a poet and architect from Granada who traveled with Mansa from Mecca. Al-Sahili was commissioned to build magnificent mosques, including one in Gao, constructed with innovative burnt bricks. Mansa Musa ruled for nearly 25 years, turning Mali into a flourishing empire. After his death, Mali continued to prosper, but this golden age would not last forever. The power of the Mali Empire began to fade as new trade routes emerged. European ships arriving in the 1460s marked a significant shift in West African trade. The growing demand for enslaved people and gold redirected the region's economy toward coastal routes controlled by Europeans. This shift eroded Mali's economic power and influence. As the empire weakened, regions it had once conquered began to revolt. The greatest setback came when the city of Gao, led by Soni Ali, rebelled and established the new Songhai Empire. Soni Ali and his successor then embarked on a campaign to conquer much of Mali's former territory. By the middle of the 17th century, the once great Mali Empire was a shadow of its former self. Mansa Musa's wealth was built on the control of overland trade routes, a foundation that was not meant to last. But what about his descendants? Despite the loss of wealth and power, his lineage strangely continues to hold influence to this day. The cultural and historical impact of his empire remains significant in modern-day Mali. Figures like the influential musician Salif Keita and Mali's first president, Modibo Keita, trace their lineage back to the great empire. Mansa Musa's rise marked the transformation of the Mali Empire into a global powerhouse. But it was how he used his wealth that defines his legacy. While his generosity and contributions were significant, it's crucial to remember his prosperity was built on the exploitation of enslaved people. His legacy is a complex one, a blend of incredible generosity and brutal exploitation that cannot be overlooked. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.